Welcome to Real Grief, Real Healing with Mindy Corporan. I am your host, Mindy. A friend of mine told me in early 2018 that she saw a vision of me with a microphone in front of me. I laughed at the time and said, "I don't see any microphones in my future." Less than a year later, I was recording my first podcast on this show. I'm not going to say, "I hope you enjoy this podcast." My podcast is not truly meant to be enjoyed. Real grief, real healing is just that, real and raw. I provide you an opportunity to learn and share in the grief others are experiencing, and then we share how they are healing or perhaps not. Grief changes each of us in some way. Many of my guests have been encouraged to open new businesses, start foundations, and in general, work to make the world around us a better place. Grief is universal. How we decide to move onward, seeking healing, is individual. A significant part of my healing comes through the courageous kindness actions of others. As you listen to my podcasts, you will hear how you can give and receive courageous kindness too. Together, we are better.
Welcome to Real Grief, Real Healing with Mindy Corporan, taking a deep dive into the reality of the difficulty grief brings and offering insight into the healing available to each of us. Today, Episode 5, New Normal. And now your host, Mindy Corporan.
Hi friends, this is Mindy Corporan. Thank you for joining me on Real Grief, Real Healing, my podcast. I've been sharing about the enormity of the life change, the significance of the life change that happened in our family in 2014. And today, what I want to talk about is how did we start moving onward? How do you wake up the next day when something so significant has happened to you? You just do. It's really that simple. You have to open your eyes, you have to stretch, and you have to say to yourself, "I'm going to get up." And that's what I did. I had things to do. I had another son to think about. Lucas was 12 at the time. I was a wife. I was still a daughter, a mother, a sister. So there were things to do. That doesn't mean it was easy. And when you experience something significant in your life, let me give you a few examples so you can be with me on what I'm talking about. Let's say you might be going through a divorce, or you might be caring for your parents, or maybe one or both of your parents are passing away or have just passed. Those are significant. Maybe you're struggling with a child or a family member who's either just simply struggling in school or perhaps there's a drug addiction involved. There are lots of life disruptions and things that cause grief. So what I did, and I think it's important to share this because I do hear from people who knew me really well at the time and would say to me, "Mindy, I can't believe you're awake today. I can't believe you're out of bed today. I think I might be in the corner all balled up crying." And it was helpful for them to support me, very helpful. But it was also important for me to hear what they thought I could be doing. What I mean by that is it gave me permission to curl up in a ball and cry when I needed to. And all of us have these life disruptions that I've mentioned, and others. They can span from the loss of a pet. If you've never lost anything in your life and you've got your grandparents and your parents and your siblings, or you've just got a great extended family or an adopted family and you just haven't experienced loss, but let's say you have a pet you've had for years and then that pet is gone. That's very sad and devastating, and that's grief too. So now that I've given you some examples, I've defined what grief is. And I touched on the fact that I needed permission to grieve. And I know you might be thinking, wow, you had such a significant event happen in your life. How did you need permission? I don't know how to explain that. I just knew I needed to get things done every day. I needed to try to be who I was again. And there's no normal, there's no returning to what we once had. And I'll let you know that when something happens to you, it is not easy to return to the normal you used to have. What I want you to understand is that there's a new normal. And we still address that today, 6 years later, that there's a new normal. So I want you to give yourself permission if you're going through something or you've been through something in the past and you might still be angry, you might still be sad or depressed, that you never returned to what you thought was normal, but yet you're still living your life. I want to give you permission to say you're in a new normal. I want to give you permission to say you need to sit in the grief for a while. And I also want to give you permission to go have sweet tea. And let me explain that. So I lost my son, Reat, and my father, and that's where my significant grief came from. And things that helped me smile on a daily basis were to think about them, think about what they liked, and do things for them and in honor of them. And it may sound a little bit silly, but I drank more sweet tea in 2014, 15, and 16 than I probably have my entire life. I had to give myself permission to stop drinking sweet tea in probably 2018. I was just getting too much sugar after a while. But Reat loved sweet tea. He loved it. He also loved rhubarb pie, strawberry rhubarb pie. So yes, on occasion, I would go buy a piece of strawberry rhubarb pie and a sweet tea and enjoy that and just be so thankful for my boy who led me to sweet tea and strawberry rhubarb pie. So what is it that you might be missing from maybe the people that have left you here on earth and they've gone? And what is it that they brought to you, the memories they brought to you? What is it that they liked, that they did, that now you could do, and in memory of them, that you could do in honor of them? So that's just one example. The sweet tea, strawberry rhubarb pie. Okay, let me tell you about my dad. My dad loved sauerkraut, and he loved sausage and sauerkraut. My dad loved liver, and I am the child. I am his daughter. I love all of those. And yes, on occasion, I cook them up. And if nobody wants to partake, that's fine. I'll eat it all. So these are some interesting healing mechanisms that I found on my own. And I just encourage you to think about what can make you happy or happier or help you find joy on a daily basis if you've got some real crappy stuff going on. Also, I want to address how I handled talking about losing a child. The reason that is pretty significant is that we all are going to lose our parents at some point, but it is unusual to lose a child. That is still an unusual event, although I feel like I know many, many people who have. So this takes me back to July 4th weekend, 2014, only months after the murders had happened. And my husband really had to drag me out of the house. I had not been interested in leaving the house, but Len knew that we needed to get out of the house and be a family as much as we could. So he packed the car, and Lucas and I got in the car, and I had a panic attack. I just looked at him, tears flowing down my face, and said, I have to go get something. And I really wasn't sure what I was going to get, but I ran into the house and I ran up to Reat's room, really frantically, almost looking for Reat, knowing that he was not there. And I found a little stuffed doll, And that represented Reat for me. And I took it from his bed. At the age of 14, I just want to be clear, he wasn't playing with stuffed dolls. He would just be chastising me right now for talking about this, but it was a cute little doll, that's from a mom's perspective, that was from like a comedy show, and he had won it at a fair. So this is the little doll I get. It wasn't that Reat was playing with dolls. He feels better now. So I go back to the car, and I set the doll in the seat next to Lucas. And Lynn and Lucas look at me, and Lucas just smiles. And he's like, "It's Stewie, Mom. You brought Stewie." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I brought Stewie." I didn't even know the doll's name. I said, "I think Stewie will go with us." And somehow that made me feel better that we had Stewie in the car. I even buckled him in. So off we went. And we drove to Dallas. And the reason that I bring this up is that we went to see family. We went to see some wonderful family members who are very loving and supportive of us. And we were at their lake house for July 4th weekend. And at first it was just us with them, and that was safe enough. And let me explain what I mean by safe. My heart was so raw that frequently I felt unsafe around groups of people. In fact, I was not putting myself in situations around groups of people. I was only allowing myself to be in situations where I knew everyone in the room and that I knew everyone around me knew my story. I did not yet feel prepared to talk much about what had happened to anyone new and explain to them what had happened to our family. So here we are. We're now at this lake house in Dallas, and initially we were just with family. But the day came when the party started, the July 4th celebration, and guests came. People who had no idea who we were, and I didn't know who they were. And I was sitting on the top of the dock, and I don't remember the woman's name, but I can guarantee you she probably remembers the conversation. I remember the conversation. We were chatting. It was friendly. I started having trouble breathing. I could tell that the conversation was moving to talk about family. And then she said it. "Are your children here? How many children do you have?" And I had thought about that question, and Lynn and I had talked about that question. How were we going to answer that question? We had actually practiced in our home, and I don't know that we came to an agreement. And I want to let you know you don't have to agree with everyone in your household how you're going to grieve, because there's no way you're going to agree. I had told Lynn, I'm going to say, I have 2 children. I will always say, I have 2 children. I'm going to say, one son's in heaven, and then one son is, standing right there, or his name is Lucas, or he's 12, or however old he is at the time. And it all sounded good when we practiced in the house. But now I'm in an unfamiliar situation, in a familiar place, but around a person I don't know. And she asked the question. And I could feel my breath stop. I took what I could take in for air, and the tears came, and they came often, and they came fast. And I looked at her, and I covered my face, and I took another breath, and I said, in such a shaky voice, I have 2 boys. My older son is in heaven, and my younger son is right over there. And she looked at me and said, I'm sorry. I know who you are. Your cousin had told me that you might be here. And then I looked at her again and I said, excuse me. And I went to the bedroom and I sobbed for a long time. Friends, it was not easy. It was not an easy statement to make. But I had practiced, I said it then, and I've said it thousands of times since then. So when you have an experience that is difficult, I'm going to use divorce. If you've just recently been divorced and you're embarrassed or you're upset or you're angry, or maybe you're really happy, I don't know your situation, but you're getting ready to talk about it for the first time, or you think you might talk about it for the first time at a gathering, it's okay to practice, and it's okay to stumble through your words, and it's okay to cry through all of that. We are human. And I feel like what I did at that moment in Dallas was just really break open more of a healing path for myself. And it was a really difficult weekend, but it was a necessary weekend. As I said, the people in your household will not all grieve, nor will they all heal the same way. And it was apparent that Lynn and Lucas and I were healing differently. We were grieving differently and we were healing differently. And Lucas needed to be around people. It didn't matter to him at 12 years old if he was around people he didn't even know. But to me, that was super scary. I wanted to protect myself. I wanted to protect my heart. And I had to learn that sometimes to help him heal, I had to put myself in situations that I didn't like, that were uncomfortable. As parents, I think we all do that along the path. We put ourselves in situations that we don't want to be in so that our children can succeed, our children can be happy. But in this instance, it was really uncomfortable, painful. I don't know what kind of hurt you've ever had, but if you have lost someone significantly like I have, you know that there's a physical pain that you feel and you walk around with it. It's a painful, deep feeling I never knew I had the capacity to feel. And if you haven't had any loss like that, praise the Lord. I hope you don't. But when someone says, my heart aches for you, or my heart is aching, that is a true statement. So we're in Dallas. Lucas is really enjoying himself. There were kids of all ages, and they weren't asking him, did he have a brother or where was his brother? He didn't seem to be in any situation that was causing him harm or grief. And I just stole myself away in the house, in the bedroom where we were staying, and would cry. And that's okay too. Lynn came to find me, pulled me out, put me back in front of people. I had no makeup on, and I learned from that point forward to really not wear makeup because I never knew when I might cry. And it's kind of a family joke now and a joke around my friends. Is Mindy going to wear makeup today or not? So did I go back to normal? No. Have I changed? Yes. Do I have a new normal? Yes. Along the way, I had to give myself permission for all of those things. One of the other aspects of healing that I know is important and happened to us and for us, I've talked previously about important people. I want to mention now that people showed up that I had not even known before. And if you are prompted, if you hear a news story and you are prompted to send a card to someone you've never met, but your heart is breaking for them or your heart is aching for them, please do so. We received thousands of cards from all over the United States, but also internationally. And there's no way I knew all those people, not at all. And I read every single card. And here's how I did it. They were really hard to read because when you're reading a card that's telling you, I'm sorry for your loss, it's just like a nail in a coffin. Yes, it happened, Mindy. It's just a reminder. And I will tell you, some people in my family said, I don't want to read the card because it just makes me hurt more. And I did hurt. But the importance of reading those cards cannot be diminished. I sat myself down at the kitchen table every day, or I don't remember how many days, and I read 14 cards. I forced myself through it. I cried through all of it, but it was healing. It was cathartic. One day I was crying, probably on my 7th or 8th card, and Lynn walked in and he was on the phone. I don't know who he was talking to, and I heard him say, "That's Mindy crying. Yes, you can hear her. No, I don't need to go to her. She's okay. This is what she does. She reads through 14 cards a day. I don't know how she does it, but she forces herself to do it, and she cries through all of it. Yes, we all heal differently." I remember him saying that, and I cried the whole time he said it. And then I laughed because he was right. He had figured out that I was going to force myself to read these cards. I didn't respond to them. First of all, there were too many. And second of all, I think if we've sent a card to someone that's out of sympathy, we aren't asking them to respond. I never felt like I needed to respond. But maybe just saying it out loud and telling you all about it is letting everyone know who wrote a card to us, and letting you know if you've ever wanted to or you ever have written a card to someone that you don't know or someone you do know and they deserve a card from you. It is helpful and it's meaningful. Again, 14 cards. You may have guessed why if you know my story. Reat was 14 years old. A lot of things make sense to me that I do, like the number 14 for charities that we focus on every year during Give 7 Days. The number 14, the cards that I read. I always try to get a hotel room with the number 14 in it if I can. If I'm given a ticket and it has a 14 on it, it's very significant. There are lots of things that happen in my life that I make them bring me joy so that I can walk forward every day. Let me go back to the 14 charities. One of the aspects of healing was to create a foundation, and we created Faith Always Wins Foundation. It's a 501c3. And then that foundation has since created 7 Days Make a Ripple Change the World. And 7 Days Make a Ripple Change the World is about kindness. And we encourage people to increase their kindness through knowledge, mindset, and behaviors. And just one aspect of 7 Days is that we adopt 14 charities every year. And what that means is we share people. We don't share money, we share people. We promote them and they promote us. And what my goal is to help people find their onward. I found my onward with creating my own foundation with my family, the Faith Always Wins Foundation. And I don't presume that someone will find their onward just with our foundation. You might find your onward with helping other people through a divorce. You might find your onward by donating time at a dog facility or holding babies in a hospital. I don't know how you're going to find your onward, but I found my onward, and one aspect of it is adopting the 14 charities every year and getting to know them and finding out what do they need and who do they help and who do they support. So just like me sitting at my kitchen table and reading through 14 cards every day for as long as we had cards, I take that feeling and I've launched it year after year into doing something positive in as many ways as possible and linking people to the 14 charities that we adopt each year. What I would ask of you is if you were compelled to write a card to someone that you don't know, if you hear a story on the radio or on the news, and you think, oh my gosh, I feel so badly for that person. What could I do? You could write them a card, send them a card. If you're struggling and you don't know how to go onward, what matters to you in life? What matters to the person that left you? And reach out to whatever that is. Go find a 501c3, go find a charity, go take a walk in the park and figure out how you can move onward. And it most likely will not be what everyone else in your household is doing. It would be nice if we could all do it together, and some days we do. Some days Lynn and Lucas and I do the same thing together and we all enjoy it at the same time. But I have learned that my new normal is not necessarily their new normal. Friends, thank you so much for joining me. And I pray for you that you find your new normal through whatever type of healing suits you best. Thank you. Friends, thanks so much for joining me today for this podcast of Real Grief, Real Healing with Mindy Corcoran. If you want to dive deeper into how you might heal yourself or a friend, please pick up a copy of my book, Healing a Shattered Soul. Published on May 3rd, 2021, you can find my memoir anywhere books are sold. You will also find me in social media channels as Mindy Corcoran. Take time to help yourself heal, accepting courageous kindness. Take time to heal another by giving courageous kindness. Together, we are better.
Real Grief, Real Healing is copyright 2021 to 2022, Mindy Corcoran, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. This podcast is a production of 818 Studios.